I never really expected it would be a career for me, and then it wasn't. When it was a career for me, I never really expected it could be a career for anybody to consider like actively that this is something
Yeah.
that I want to do. Um, and my mum's a primary school teacher, and I remember hearing from her that like a lot of the kids, they want to be vloggers when they grow up. And hearing that, I
Oh,
was just like, oh God, um, that is awful. And also, I have played a role in this.
you
Like
paved the
these
way for it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, it's incredibly strange. I mean, I think YouTube, you could make money from making YouTube videos if that works out for you. That's great, but have a backup plan. That's not that I can really go to primary school kids now and be like, "You want to be a YouTuber? Okay, you need to have your exit strategy." Um, but that's kind of how I think about it.
It's all strategize, strategize, strategize. Guys, I try to tell the kids all the time, honestly. I'd love that that's not what you went into the primary school be like, Emily, enough of that fucking jump cut shit. We need to get into fades. Do you know what I mean? God, yeah, let's really think deeper here. What's going to translate into Instagram? Hello and welcome back to another episode of Finnterviews. I'm your host Connor Finn, and this is a show where I sit down for a chat with the most interesting people that I know. Now this week I was delighted to be joined by the fabulous Charlie McDonnell. If you're not familiar with Charlie, you might recognise him better from his YouTube days as CharlieIsSoCoolLike, which was the first YouTube channel to reach 1 million subscribers in the UK, which was actually a pretty big deal back in the day. Since then, of course, he's written books, presented across multiple channels, made multiple albums and short films, moved to Toronto, and even made his own brand of tea, for God's sake. This interview was honestly such a pleasure to host, and it was just fascinating to sit down and pick the brains of someone who myself and I know many others grew up watching and enjoying online. So it all felt strangely nostalgic to say the least, but Charlie was such a lovely open guest and I just really enjoyed having chats with him. So without further ado, please enjoy this latest episode of Finnterviews with the wonderful Charlie McDonnell. Well, welcome back to another episode of Finnterviews. On the show this week, I am genuinely delighted to welcome on Charlie McDonnell. How's it going, Charlie?
Hello. Yeah, it's going good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I feel like I just seen like a wave of like hesitation go over you. Like I just want to make sure this is Charlie, yeah. Or maybe it's just my accent. I get that a lot. Do you know what I mean? I'm from North, in Ireland. Yeah, maybe that's just a language barrier. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I hardly even know what you're saying right now.
Perfect. Well, that means that I can get away with anything. We're just studying. No, Jenny, thank you for coming on to the podcast. We're just having a little catch up about all things like audio related and streaming things. So we're really chanced our arm here getting this recording done because you're currently in Toronto at the moment, aren't you?
Yes. No, I've been in Toronto for I think 4 years now. So yeah, we've got the long distance thing going, but
Yeah.
it seems fine. I've got my fancy mic set up just for you, so
Thank
I'm doing
you.
my best.
Appreciate it. Honestly, wouldn't take anything less. I tell you, log right off. Get shit done. No, Jenny, I appreciate like anyway that even comes on the show. But I suppose, Charlie, first and foremost, for the people that, are maybe listening, I love that this I get to say this. For people that maybe like discover you from finding me, like tell us maybe a little bit about yourself, where you're from, like your background, what you're known for, who is Charlie McDonnell, because I'm not going to do the mistake that I've done in past interviews and try to tell people what they are, what they do, because it just never comes off flattering at all. They're just like, no, you're completely wrong, Connor.
Well, I mean, I've had such a varied quote unquote career that I'm always interested to hear when people try and figure out how to describe who I am. So I'm sort of tempted to just say, give it a go. I mean, I remember when I did like a panel. This was like maybe 5 years ago, where I had just done like one stint hosting on Radio One. I'm
Hmm.
not answering your question right now. I will answer your question, but I'd done one stint hosting on Radio One, and then I'd spent 10-ish years doing the thing that I am known for, which is being a YouTube creator. And I remember being on that panel and being introduced as Radio 1 presenter and YouTuber Charlie McDonnell. And I was like, okay, okay.
Is that what I put on my CV, my business cards now? I'm not sure. Like,
Well, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, yeah, Radio 1 presenter sounds very, very cool and interesting, and but that's a thing I did once for fun to see how it would go. It's not the thing that I've built a career out of. Yeah, my background is mostly in making YouTube videos. It's not something I really do anymore, but that's probably the thing I'm best known for as being CharlieIsSoCoolLike. Was something I started when I was 16. I did for a long time. These days, I'm more focused on screenwriting, filmmaking, and I've also gotten very into Twitch streaming. That's been my 2020 thing that's gotten me through the pandemic. Is like Twitch became a big thing, I think, for many creators who were suddenly just like, I don't know, there was a lot of hype around it, and I got into it and have been thoroughly enjoying doing that.
yeah. Yeah, well, thank God I let you take the reins for that one, because all I have, like, when I was trying to send you some questions beforehand, I was like, usually will be chatting to people. They'll be, strictly presenters, or they'll be, maybe a different mix of things. And I was just like, I mean, what I tell this guy, I kind of just put it under that umbrella of like content creation, even though it's kind of like, can you still put like filmmaking or like script writing? Like, I mean, you're an author as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Can you like, does that still come under content creation, or does that like give off that little bit of like a content creator, like the same way as like people are like, I'm an influencer, hashtag like.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do not like being called an influencer. That's something that always makes me feel very uncomfortable. Um, so I sometimes say content creator. Other times I might say just like I'm a very online person who has done some real world media stuff too. But when I'm introducing myself to new people these days, I'll say screenwriter, because I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know. It's just fun to be able to not say YouTuber anymore.
Yeah, I get you. It's kind of like when people ask, like, what do you do with your spare time? I mean, I can say, I chat with people on the internet in my bedroom, but that doesn't have the same ring to it as like, I'm just a digital creator. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like in with the trends, yeah. And then they even like roll their eyes even further back in their head, anyways. Yeah, still trying to get to like, one of those like proper titles where maybe you don't like have to cringe every time you have to like announce it to the world. But yeah, I mean, kind of as you said there, like you've kind of spanned over, like your background is so eclectic from starting off what was, the OG fucking YouTube days. Like one of the guys that I would have like, I remember watching you growing up, which not to make you feel old, but like that literally that's what I remember. I mean, even right now, like I feel like we are probably we look like the same age, like, but it's weird for me to be like, I was watching your videos, whatever age you were making them, whatever age I was viewing them, like.
Yeah, I mean, I started when I was very young, so that it does make sense. I mean, it does make you feel old. I have had that before. I mean, I'm also kind of used to. I'm kind of beyond the point now of being offended when people say I used to watch your videos when I was a kid. There was definitely that transitional period where I was meeting people who were saying, I love your videos, and then it suddenly was like, I loved your videos when I was young. I had to get over that that
Yeah.
hump for sure. Um, but I don't know. That's something I can't really get my head around. Just like being a part of people's childhoods, which it seems to be. I mean, it feels weird to say that, but that's what people have said to me. So
Yeah, you're allowed to say
I can't say it.
Yeah, exactly. But I suppose like first and foremost, like we'll start back at the start anyways. Like when did you kind of first get into this whole world of, as I said, content creation? You're kind of talking about YouTube, like, and I know like I was trying to like do a little bit of research and stuff like this, so I wasn't going to get you to answer the same questions, but it's hard to kind of dodge these like initial kind of ones. Like tell us, when did you first get into this whole like world essentially of creating whatever it is, whether it was, make your films, making, YouTube videos, making music. Was it something that you'd always gravitated towards and like kind of had this passion for, or did you potentially ever have another path in mind? I don't know.
I mean, kind of pre getting into YouTube, I was interested in kind of art and graphic design, and I also did a lot of kind of theater stuff too. I was probably kind of like the shyest theater kid, but I was part of like youth theaters and stuff like that, and did
Mm.
lots of like acting classes and lessons. So that's kind of the stuff I was into. And then, yeah, I discovered YouTube when I was about 16, and I think that's kind of when I realized I was really interested in kind of self-driven stuff. I guess kind
Mm.
of not just kind of like um, following someone else's script. I wanted to be like seeing if I could write my own stuff. I actually started the YouTube channel originally not to be a video blogger, but because I wanted a place to upload a short film that I was working on, which never got made, never got finished, um, and
Spoiler alert.
would have
Yeah.
been terrible. Yes. I really hope the footage for that film has been long since demolished because that would be the most embarrassing thing
Well,
to find.
Charlie, you'll be glad to know that on this podcast, imagine that's what I do. I just like drag up people's like, skeletons out of the closet. Like, oh, you
Thank
just
God it's just a
immediately,
podcast, so no one actually have to see it.
you just log off immediately. Connor, yeah, you'll be hearing from my agent.
Um, but yeah, I was just watching video bloggers and seeing. I mean, this is very early YouTube, 2007 era, where YouTube was not very fancy. Like nobody had kind of like fancy lighting or DSLRs, and it was much less professional. Like everybody was shooting with terrible webcams and editing in Windows Movie Maker. It was like very easy to look at YouTube back then and be like, yeah, I could easily do this. In fact, I could
Yeah.
probably be better than most people on this website if I just put in slightly more effort. Because the bar to entry was much lower. So that's kind of when I got into that. And then I mean I just did it for fun, right? As a teenager, just wanting to kind of like mess around on the internet, and then slowly, gradually, it became my career, and that was weird and surprising.
Yeah, like I suppose as well, like growing up, like obviously, like it is, you're doing like act or you're doing like theater things and you're doing like artsy things in the back, like in the background. Like, how does this transition from like this is like there's some videos I put up on the internet to being like, oh, this is like something like that I'm gonna follow into like full time. Like, I suppose that's why I'm always interested in the kind of turnover between like a hobby into like, oh, this can probably kind of support me a little bit. Like, I suppose
Mhm.
from like so many other people, do you know what I mean? It's that like strict kind of, well, it's definitely changed nowadays. Like, but it was that like strict, you're growing up, school, like from school, you get your GCSEs, A level, uni. It's like that strict path that they're like, this is what you need to do. And if you diverge from, everybody's going to be like, oh, well, interesting. Like for
Mhm.
you,
Yes.
in particular, as you said, back in like like quite early days of YouTube, like was that like something that like was kind of unheard of, I suppose, or like I don't know, like how was people's reactions when like did you go off and study for a bit or
Well, I remember my granddad was especially interested in me following that strict and expected path,
mm,
and was always, we're going to save money so that you can spend it on university tuition fees,
that's
and
what student
I
loans are
remember,
for, come on, Jesus.
yeah. um, so I was very much, there was a point where I really had to kind of, that was the big kind of justification that I had to make, was to my granddad. Like, can it? That's a real challenge. Like, the world generally doesn't understand like what YouTube is, and like I think like around 2010 ish, 2009 maybe, that's when it started to become something of a job, of a career for me. So that was
Mm,
the point where I had to try and like explain to my granddad, who had no idea what was going on with YouTube and was not interested in figuring out how the computer works necessarily. Can I explain to him that this is going to be the thing I do, and I'm not going to go to university because I want to do this thing instead? Um, Fortunately, it did work. I remember I showed him one of my videos, which was called "Duet with Myself," which was,
mm,
it was like a split screen song
classic.
where I was like, yeah, singing a song with myself about self-loathing and self-love, a mix of both things. I showed it to him, and he was like, "Yeah, this is great. You could be a comedian," is what he said. "You could be a comedian." Um, and uh, that was the point where I was like, "Okay, now I've convinced my granddad. I'm sure I can convince anyone.
That's all you need
This
you
is a
like
worthy path." Yeah.
show him one video and he's like, sweet, yeah, you've got it. Whatever.
I was very
Go for
surprised that it worked out. Yes. But it was partly sudden, partly gradual. There was one point I'd been making YouTube videos for about a month where YouTube used to do a thing where they would pick videos, like actual people at YouTube would pick videos and put them on the front page to feature them. That was kind of the ticket to success back in 2007 YouTube. Like, can you get a featured video? So I made a video making fun of all of the videos that YouTube would feature, and then they featured that one. So that's kind of where I got my initial influx of viewers. And then this was also like a period where nobody was making any money from YouTube. Like, that wasn't even a thing that was possible. So once they rolled out the partner program way back when, then I was making just enough money that it felt like almost like having a summer job, I guess.
Yeah.
Until gradually that just kept on building and building until I realized I could be paying my mum rent, or I could just be renting an apartment somewhere else based off of my YouTube income. This is yeah, wild and weird. And it's very odd, I think, when the thing you really are just doing for fun
Yeah.
becomes your job. Because I mean, it sounds like a perfect situation, but you have to start thinking about your hobby very differently when it is suddenly what pays your rent and all of that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where it began, I guess.
Yeah. I suppose that's like that. Well, like, I mean, nowadays, like, does it not kind of seem like strange? Like, even we're kind of talking your dad, listen to one of the past guests I had on was like, he originally started off kind of YouTube, like an Irish YouTuber, Stephen Byrne, but he was saying that like he's kind of like bereaved at like the current climate and like the current generation that are going up through like the education system, because he was like, when I was doing YouTube as one of the first ones, and like I would have got slagged the shit out of at school, like it was so annoying. And like now there's ones that are like, for Christmas ask for ring lights and like, proper like little video kits, because like what they see as a career is generally being like a creator, make things on YouTube, or make vlogs, whatever else. Like, it's mad how like in that short period of time, even like for myself, I wouldn't even been like anybody that I know, generally, like it'd be like, oh, you do YouTube, whatever, like this, should be like, okay, fun. Like, do you know what I mean? It does not kind of like feel strange to look back at it now and be like, yeah, this was a thing that you were one of the first kind of ones, like especially in like the UK atmosphere as well, to like go into it, like being like, okay, I think this is like an actual progression could be here. But now it's almost just like normalized.
Yeah, I mean, I never really expected it would be a career for me, and then it wasn't. When it was a career for me, I never really expected it could be a career for anybody to consider like actively that this is something that I want to do. My mum's a primary school teacher, and I remember hearing from her that like a lot of the kids, they want to be vloggers when they grow up. And hearing that, I was just like, oh god, that is awful. And also, I've played a role in this.
You
like,
paved the way for it, yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. It's I mean, it's incredibly strange. I mean, I think one of the things that I think about the most when I hear about people having aspirations to be YouTubers is they don't know that it actually kind of really isn't still a proper job. I mean, I know that lots of people, have made careers out of YouTube, but I would be very hesitant to tell anybody to just do YouTube. As somebody who has done it for like 12 years and had a career and ultimately gotten out of it, I don't trust it still as like a viable career path, or to be the only thing that you do. I feel like, yeah, you could do YouTube, you could make money from making YouTube videos. If that works out for you, that's great, but have a backup plan. That's not that I can really go to primary school kids now and be like, you want to be a YouTuber? Okay, you need to have your exit strategy. But that's kind of how I think about it.
It's all strategize, strategize, strategize. Guys, I try to tell the kids all the time, honestly. I'd love that that's not what you went into the primary school and be like, Emily, enough of that fucking jump cut shit. We need to get into fades. Do you know what I mean? God, yeah, let's really think deeper here. What's going to translate into Instagram? Fuck's sake. That sounds way too intense, but I bet there are people that are definitely doing that. Like, but I suppose, like, as well, from this, like, whole kind of world that, like, you grew up and, like, and have progressed on forward from like, I suppose, what was the kind of, like, inspiration behind, like, your content from then and then even till now? Like, as you said, like, screenwriter, like, I mean, you've made, like, your own films, you've made your own book. Like, is there particularly anyone or anything, maybe this bit too big of a question, but, like, anything that's, like, influenced you in any of your kind of creative outlets? I don't know.
I mean, there were definitely key like video bloggers way back when that would directly influence me deciding to do it. Not that I feel like I could say anyone's name and that you would have any recognition, because it's very, very
Try me.
early.
Go on.
Remember the wine cone?
Know them well. Yep, chatted them last week. Yeah. Charlie, I don't know why you don't think I'm being serious.
The Hill 88? Remember the
Oh
Hill
my
88?
god. Oh yeah, and then there's Hill 89. Yeah. None of these.
Blunchy 3000? None of these?
Oh god, no.
Clicking for you.
Absolutely none of these. Like, I would usually think that I'm like, yeah, I like would have watched so many things, but like, no, none of that literally clicks with me. My earliest memories, like Smosh, kind of like they would be like one of the big ones I remember, like at the start. Like,
yes,
yeah, I suppose mainstream.
That was when I was starting. Smosh was the most subscribed YouTube channel in the world, and I think that they had 1 million subscribers. If you think about it now, it's I mean, like, every popular seeming YouTuber has at least 5 million. So for the most popular YouTuber on the platform, to have just 1 million, that kind of puts that into context a little bit. So yeah, there were those specific people that were inspiring to me, and then there was kind of like the I can't remember the specific years, but there was definitely a point in my YouTube career where I was like, okay, I am thinking about exit strategy now. I'm thinking about how can I use YouTube to launch kind of like a next step in my career, use it as a place to kind of like hone some skills. So I was thinking much more about filmmaking, and if that was something that I could, well, it seemed like a logical step, because after many years of doing YouTube, being on camera, figuring out how to film stuff,
makes sense.
How to write the videos, like being able to edit, like there's a base there that you can build on top of to see. Maybe I could learn some filmmaking stuff too. I remember one of the key influences to me when I first became interested in doing filmmaking was the filmmaker Edgar Wright.
Oh yeah, Hot Fuzz, all those.
Yeah, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead. Later,
Cornetto trilogy, isn't that?
Yeah, the Cornetto trilogy and the Scott Pilgrim Baby Driver. He's from, I want to say, Wells. I mean, basically, and I'm from Bath originally, so it was one of those things where I was like, okay, here's a guy whose films, like, I really admire the style of them, but also I can clearly see, like, he comes from a few towns over from me. It was one of those things where I could be like, I could imagine a trajectory, even if I never like achieve the same success that someone like Edgar Wright has achieved. I could see, that's something to aspire to. At least I know that someone has done it and it seems possible. So that was, I think if you look back at my very early short films, there's a lot of just trying to steal Edgar Wright's style and ideas. That's kind of where I began from.
Yeah, God, yeah, you're really just, I mean, knowing thing that you're kind of progressing on to, like, I mean, I'm always surprised whenever I hear that Bath is actually like in Somerset. Do you know what I mean? Like, how did you skip that accent? Like, what? Just the one.
I'm in Bath. that's how you skip it. Yeah.
That's fair. But yeah, no, I suppose, like, even that's like for anybody, I suppose, like that's yeah, like you can see it obviously in, things that I suppose you create, like the T-cross stuff like that. I remember even like my brother, whenever he was trying to get into like, there was an A level that came out just like before I started getting into my A levels, which is like moving image arts, kind of like film studies. But I remember him
Mhm.
being like obsessed similarly with like Edgar Wright and like all those transition styles. So I remember like whenever
Yes.
we would watch kind of your videos as well, we'd be like, God damn, he's got it good. But like that's, do you know what I mean? It's that kind of appreciation where you're kind of being like I see what you did there, or whatever like this. And then I suppose like even like on the other kind of aspects of it, like one of my like I was interested in obviously going into things like different series where you're quite interested in this like whole array of like science things. Like I mean,
Mhm.
were you was there anybody like that influenced you into that, or was it just like genuine like I have a curiosity in this and like figure I'm just gonna get into these bits, or was
I
Edgar Wright
mean,
still a huge influence?
yes, Edgar Wright was also the main influence in the science content. Um,
Fantastic. Next question.
yeah, no, that just kind of came out of just like a passion that I found just for learning and being interested in science. This is kind of post school, right? I'd said I'm not going to go to university, but I'm going to teach myself some stuff. And that kind of came more out of there's this old TV series called Cosmos, which is
Oh
hosted
yeah.
by Carl Sagan,
Mhm.
who's like one of my well, he probably would be my favorite all-time favorite kind of science communicator. Um, that I just love that show so much, and so that in conjunction with kind of having this platform on YouTube where I was like, how can I use this for some kind of good? Well, let's see if I can try and make this. I'm finding myself incredibly interested by all of the science stuff that I'm learning. How can I try and share this knowledge with people, share my
Mm.
excitement for it? Um, with an audience that's not necessarily looking for that, but might find something interesting in it. So that's kind of where that interest in adding the science content to my YouTube channel came from. And then as I became less and less interested in kind of being a YouTube personality and sharing my life online, I kind of like near the end of my YouTube channel's life cycle, that's when I was like, okay, I'm just gonna see if I can just go all in on the science now for a
Mm.
bit, because I don't want to make video blogs anymore. I knew that. I don't want to talk about myself, so I can talk about something else, and I can
Yeah.
still make content. And we'll try that for a bit. Um, so that's kind of where that came from. But uh, yeah. So Carl Sagan and Edgar Wright for whatever reason.
Yeah, and like I suppose have those like fed into as well, like as you said, like in this kind of new, like well, not even new, like kind of what you've been doing over the last like couple of years. Like it is hilarious that I feel like you're probably still, even though you've escaped from YouTube, you always still get dragged into this conversation of YouTube. But like, have you
Right.
found
Yes.
like yeah, have you found like even those kind of things have still like applied to the stuff that you're creating now, whether it's any of the short films or features or anything like that, like between your anything creative, like just still find those little like niches of like back in the day, or have you kind of like completely like found like a whole kind of new creative like influence, I suppose, as well from moving freaking across the world, like
Well, it's hard not to be continuously kind of like thinking about, um yeah, trying to look back on my YouTube career and seeing what my skill set actually is. Trying to figure that out and trying
how
to see
critical,
if I can
Jesus.
see if I can apply it to the stuff that I'm working on currently. Like the last big project that I worked on was you could call it a feature, but it was kind of more of like a short form show, science fiction show that I created called Don't Look Deeper, and all of the episodes for that were 10 minutes each.
Mm.
And so having a background in just doing the short films, but also like um, coming from early YouTube where there was more how do I put this? Um, it it seemed more important back in YouTube early days to not be wasting people's time, whereas maybe a lot of video bloggers these days don't seem to care about that so much. It would
Wow,
be
Jesus, burn.
heathenous back in 2007 to be posting a 15, 20-minute video blog of you just talking about
Oh,
your
criminal.
life. Yeah, it
Absolutely.
just wouldn't happen. It was how do I get to the point? How do I try and be punchy and
Mm,
fit minutes of talk into like how do I fit 15 minutes of talk into like 3 minutes? Like what do I
mm,
actually need to cut out in order to like get to a point?
mm,
So that kind of like interest in like how do you slice away the fat and just get to the good stuff?
mm.
That's still very relevant to me now in terms of like the writing stuff. But yeah, suddenly like how can I get how can I tell an interesting story in just 10 minutes of screen time, um and keep us like what's the kind of story that fits best into that kind of format too.
Mm.
um so it yeah I'm it turns out I did have something of a skill set after all.
Who would have thought? Amazing. Yeah. No, I that's probably one of the skills I need to pick up on. Jeez, that's why I started off podcasts because I famously cannot get to a point as you probably have experienced me trying to ask questions and get to a single point. But on that note, I'll try and get to the next point. Okay. This will be my strategy for the rest of it. Yeah. I'm gonna try and like apply your skill set to my own thing here. Okay. So
Well,
uh
you could say that, but then I also come from the point of view now of having done Twitch for almost a year, which is completely on the opposite end, where
yeah.
it's like, how do you stretch you playing a video game out to 3 hours and try and make it entertaining? Like that's the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So I respect that too. So don't feel rushed on my account.
Finally, God. Yeah, see, I was actually just learning you in there. I just wanted to get your permission to be like, Connor, take your time. I've got nothing else to do here today. Yeah. So everybody heard it here first. Yeah, it's a confirmation. I actually can take my time.
Yes, 3 hour episodes
Yeah,
from here on out.
exactly. Yeah, you'll regret it now. But like, I suppose as well, from YouTube, filmmaking, Twitch, everything that's kind of happened, I'm kind of interested in as well, like because you started off in this creative role so young. Like, was there ever this kind of like, did you ever do any, I suppose, character building jobs before getting into these like creative roles that maybe informed the person you are today? The things that I'm kind of talking about are like you start about 16. That's usually when people start getting their first jobs. And,
Mhm.
I find those kind of experiences often like, humble you quite quickly. I don't know if
Mhm.
you have had any, odds and ends kind of jobs like before all this that like maybe similarly inspire or like even just kind of give you like a worldview of things. I mean, Charlie, I'm sure you can relate. Me and you picking strawberries for like uncles when we were like 8 years old, getting like paid like 20 quid after like 2 weeks of slave labor work. I can't say slave labor, Jesus Christ. Child labor work. Yeah, I'm sure you can relate with something like that, right?
I unfortunately have the worst possible answer to this question, which is that no, I didn't do any of it. I started making YouTube videos. It was my first job, and was my only job for a very long time. It actually makes me feel odd in hindsight because people do talk so much about, you know, I was working in bars, I'm
Mm,
working in shops, like I was building up that grit. I was, like you said, being humbled, and on the other end, I was getting popular on the internet. So I was getting the opposite experience. And trying to fortunately I think always try to check myself and check my ego and stay as grounded as I possibly could. That was something I learned to try and do very early on. I'm yeah lucky that I had the ability to do that because um, I think through 12 years of YouTube I did manage to retain my soul at the end of the whole thing, and try
amazing.
and
Honestly, unheard of.
yeah, should try and retain some yeah 2 feet on the ground. But the honestly the closest thing that I have is the few occasions where I would test out, can I do a bit of presenting work?
Mm,
Like this is an opportunity that is open to me. I don't know if I will like it or not.
mm,
So, but I have the opportunity, so why not try it? So I would do a few. I remember there was a show that I was going to present called First TV, where I was like one of two presenters on it. And that was more, you're in that kind of like, you're in the talent role, right? So you're still
mm,
being like pampered. and all of that stuff. But I remember doing that, and there was the point in the show where I had to tell kids how to enter a competition to win a scooter, and I just thought, I don't want to have to say these words, and I don't have to. Like, I've gotten this gig out of doing my YouTube, but I think I prefer just being my own boss, actually.
Yeah.
So
God.
a lot of money was spent on producing pilot episodes for that show, and then I decided I didn't want to do it, so the whole thing fell apart. Um, but I
But at
had to be
least,
able to, yeah, look at myself and be like, is this actually something I want to do? And then from that
mm,
point onwards, I was always very picky about, like, if I had an opportunity to do that sort of thing, is it um is it something I think I would enjoy, or maybe I'll enjoy it now, or maybe I just need some money, you know?
yeah, like I suppose that's like a different like way of like even learn about like yourself or the world, or
Mm,
anything that like at least you kind of learned like I can stand on my own 2 feet. I know that like even I know what I want to be doing, and I kind of know what doesn't suit me. Where I feel like
mm,
I'm still at that point where I'm like, because I've just been like, from odds and ends kind of job to like different wee bits here and there. I'm like, when somebody asks to, do something or something for a job, I'm like, yeah, sweet, I'm money whore. Yeah, here we go. Like,
yeah.
I feel like this is the only thing that's like has given me a little bit of like self respect in it, where it's my own kind of driven, thing to do, rather than me being like. But I remember beforehand, like even I wanted like a little like I actually worked on that show that didn't like get worked up. No, imagine that. Imagine this is like my grievances, just like get in touch with you, because I was like, that was supposed to set me up for 6 months. Um, no, but like I've done kind of little bits of like runner and research work, like in that kind of TV
Mhm.
radio sphere, and I feel like yeah, you like from those kind of experiences, you're just kind of like you just agree to whatever, and you'll kind of be like, yeah, this, you're told that this is the kind of step there that you go up to. So maybe like at least at least you had the, the hindsight to kind of go like, well, no, this is like something that I'm not comfortable with, rather than just bowing down to the man, yeah, the big shots, whatever else it is, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly privileged position to be in, to be
Mm,
like, I actually have the opportunity to like do presenting work now. Like, and I think you can, that's the sort of thing that a lot of people like. I really aspire to do that. I dream of doing that, and once I achieve that, then I'll be happy. And I think I was always able to go, I've achieved this opportunity, but I'm just gonna test it out. Like, I'm not
yeah.
gonna say this is actually gonna be the thing I want to do.
Mm,
I'm gonna analyze every moment of this while I'm doing it, and see if it actually is something that makes me happy. I mean, I went through the same process when I was making my short films, because I really thought I wanted to be a director, um,
mm,
and then I made 4 short films, and at a certain point, as I was thinking about um, what parts of the process I actually really enjoyed, it was always the writing and the editing, and the
mm.
actual being on set will always just stress me out to no end. And
Really?
yeah, I could I was just always, yeah, it was. I don't know how directors do it. My partner Emily is a director, and she's much better at it than I am. Much more able to stay in control of the whole ship. Um, and it was actually true. Like, people like her and like other friends of mine who are focused on directing, where I was like, I feel like, I feel comfortable with the idea of just writing something and just doing the story bit, because that was the part I enjoyed the most. Although I do still really like editing too, and I feel comfortable being able to say, I'm going to hand this on to someone else, because I don't want
Yeah.
the stress of having to shoot this thing, but I trust this other person to do their own thing with
Yeah.
a script that I've read. Um, so yeah, I'm always looking for that, like, checking in with myself and saying, what am I actually enjoying now that I've seemingly achieved this goal that I like aspired
Yeah.
to for so long. Let's make sure that this goal is actually fun now that I'm doing it.
Isn't it like that? I don't know if you've seen this like woman on YouTube that like, or not YouTube, on Netflix, that like tidies up things, but she's like, does it spark joy though? Like
Yes.
that's
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
Marie Kondoing all aspects of my life.
My God, yeah. Wow, well before your time. Yeah. Does it spark joy? We'll find out. My next kind of like question that I have kind of down here, task, but I think it's not even worth doing, because I just realized everybody, it's usually I kind of ask people, what's your day to day kind of look like? Is your day the same? And then I remember that we've all essentially been in, you know, a purgatory lockdown.
Hmm.
So maybe maybe that's not like the healthiest thing to ask. But I suppose you're saying like your most days is kind of like Twitch, or I mean, doing again, I joke, like doing charity work like this on the side. I feel like that's always, you
Hmm.
know, really nice for people to do. You know, coming on
Yeah, yeah.
Finnterviews as well.
I mean, I feel like when I think about, I'll clear my throat. Hold on. I was just about to give you a very like bad sounding answer then.
No, it's okay. I understand. This is a pretty intense question.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah.
was
I
like,
know.
maybe
You
I
gotta
really shouldn't
prepare.
ask this. Yeah.
You gotta prepare.
Oh
Um,
God.
when people ask me like, "What's a day in your life?" I always want to tell them like the best possible version, like the ideal version. You know I mean. I feel like I'm really ragging on YouTubers today, but whenever a YouTuber films like a day in their life, you know, it's like that's not your day. That's like the most idealized version of your day that
Mm.
like you could possibly imagine. Oh, what is going on in my throat? Oh dear.
Well, this is really triggering you.
Same. I know. I'm sorry. You're not supposed to like be even like vaguely sick in any way anymore. You're like, well, I'm across a whole ocean from you, and you're still like, oh no, he's coughing. He's coughing.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been trying to stay as fit as I can. I have my exercise bike right over here. I play
I
video
can't.
games while I exercise most mornings now,
I
which
mean,
is
it's out of shop. I'm just believing you that there's an
I
exercise
can
bike
show it
there.
to you if you. I mean, no one is gonna see it, but it is.
Okay, now I believe you. Okay, that's fair
I have
enough.
it.
Yeah.
Whether or
Yeah,
not you
and this
believe
is
that I actually use it is a different question. But
my one's over there as well. Yeah. But sorry.
so yeah, that's how I start my days. And then on days that I'm twitching, most of the day is taken up by just preparing or making new stuff for the Twitch streams. I like to make like fun, interactive, weird things to do on Twitch. I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with Twitch. I feel like most people know what Twitch is, but unless they actually like actively watch streamers, they don't really understand why anyone would do it or would watch any streamers. So.
Yeah, like I do get it. I wouldn't probably consume a lot of it.
Hmm.
Like I completely get the appeal of it though. I mean, don't get me wrong, but like then that kind of stems back to the kind of like YouTube stuff that I suppose would have watched. Like, and
Hmm.
then even then I'm like, man, if that goes on for an hour, Jesus, like.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, it's similar kind of format. I mean, you're playing games and essentially live streaming this, and other people are watching and interacting with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I try and make as much like I try and be as creative with it as I can, which is always what I
Hmm.
try to do with the YouTube content. Like a kind of traditional thing that many Twitch streamers will do is if they get a new follower, you'll say hello to the new follower live. It's one of the things you can do on Twitch that you could never do on YouTube. It comes with its added issues though, which is that most usernames are hard to pronounce. So I turned it into a game. I spent some time like making overlays that would figuring out a brand new program for me, and which is the open broadcasting software OBS, how it all
Hmm.
works. And I built a version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire into my Twitch, which will pull the username of the person that followed me most recently, and it will appear on screen as how do you pronounce this username? You'll see the username on screen, and then you'll have like who wants to be a millionaire, the four answers, but they're all just the username four times. And then I have to try and see if I can figure out how to pronounce it. Stuff like that. It's been a lot of fun for me to just like try and invent and see like how could you do fun, weird, interesting stuff on this platform that other people might just kind of fall into a routine of just I'm just going to do the regular Twitch thing
Hmm.
of just sitting here and playing games. The streamers I enjoy the most, the ones that like mess with that format and try and come up with weird and interesting stuff, and make the sort of interaction with the streamer kind of like as fun as possible.
Yeah,
Pressing buttons and making things happen on other people's streams. It can be pretty chaotic, but it's
yeah,
fun.
I suppose my only like reference point to that is there's a very kind of famous Irish podcaster, but Blind Boy podcast, or he's just called Blind Boy.
Hmm.
But he would kind of do Twitch streams, and he like he's a musician as well, so he would like, you know, he'd make songs while he's like playing along to whatever game it is, and like would
Mhm.
like based off like it just constantly be creating like different songs like while it's whatever's playing along and whatever people are feeding into. So I mean, yeah, you do a game show, yeah, other sympathies. I mean, even for this, I thought I was gonna like try to make it like it's a game show format for dead people, and then I just got way too lazy. Like I mean,
Mhm.
and so this is why I just asked people what they have done, so I can live precariously through that. Yeah.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, fair enough. But I suppose like maybe from this like, Twitch, from, game show things to like, I mean, presenting, being a Radio 1 presenter, whatever else. Have there been any major standout moments that have like came from, as you said, like such an eclectic, I suppose, career that like maybe you thought never could have happened? Are there any kind of standout moments that, you're like, they're pinch me moments when you try to think back to?
Um, I I mean, we were talking a bit about presenting. Um, I didn't get the gig, but I did audition to be a CBBC presenter, and I remember having a lot of fun doing that. It's one of those things where you just like when you have watched something as a kid, and then you kind of like get to have a go at doing that thing you watched as a kid. It's like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, I don't know that that's necessarily a very well paid gig or anything like that, but it's one of those things where it's just like I could be that guy that I
Yeah.
watched when I was a kid. That would be fun.
It's like being
Um,
like a Blue Peter presenter. You're like, "Dear
yeah,
God,
yeah.
how do we get here?"
That was well, it was fun doing it, but it was most fun because I did two auditions for that. One with another human host, and then one with a
Oh my
puppet
God.
host.
Oh,
I had to.
I was about to say, I was like, what other type of host? Oh,
I know, I
what the
know. I was
fuck?
like, I should have just said I did one with another person and one with a puppet. I don't know why I said human, even though it's technically correct. So I don't know. But I really enjoyed hosting with a puppet. That was for me. That was just like a ton of fun because you just like you essentially just you have like the young pretty people to be CBBC presenters, and then instead of that you have me hopefully fulfilling that role, and then you just like have like a 40-year-old like guy underneath the desk who's just like way funnier and like way more interesting and like way more talented, and you just like get to riff with like this puppet, and I was like, this is I would love this. I would love to do this. So that was a moment. um I mean, like in terms of like life.
Sorry, I love that. That's your like throwback to like what's like the pinnacle, mate. There's like this puppet. I was like just riffing off. Oh, do you know what? Like I feel like after that, everything was downhill. Do you know, really like.
Yeah, I could say more, I guess, but it really peaked with the puppet.
Yeah, it's just plateaued from there.
I mean, there's nothing quite. I mean, this follows into the question I know you're going to ask me later about horror stories, but
Mm.
the moment that I had somebody say, "Yes, I will spend an obscene amount of money on this idea for a show that you had,"
Mm.
um, that was one of those things where I was like, I I feel like for whatever reason, filmmaking feels like a seemingly impossible thing to ever achieve when you're trying to achieve it. And having made a show now, I could tell you that that is completely accurate. It is, um, im- it's wild that anything gets made ever because of how hard it is to make
Mm.
something like that. Um, so it was like this double prong thing where I was like, okay, I actually get to make this thing that I've wanted to make for such a long time and actually like achieve that goal. Um, but
Riddled with
also,
imposter syndrome.
yeah, yeah. I also remember the person who signed off on it. Like, it had nothing to do with my YouTube career either. Like, everything that I've achieved has kind of like post YouTube has kind of been because of YouTube, and much of me being able to make that show came through my YouTube success. But
Mm.
ultimately, it ended with a person saying who had no idea about my YouTube, who just was looking at a script and hearing a pitch and was like, actually, I like this story enough that I'm willing to spend lots of money on it. And I was like, oh, this has to do with the skill that I've been trying to build up,
Yeah.
and not to do with like being CharlieIsSoCoolLike or anything like that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can do more than just being a YouTuber, and that was a moment where I was like, okay, um, I can do life now. This is good. This feels good.
Up to that point, you weren't really sure. Yeah, you're like, "Oh, am I doing it? Can I really do live?" And then it took to that. Yeah, yeah. But I suppose that's like, yeah, that's just such a huge thing. I mean, being recognized, like, well, no, it's not. It's completely opposite from being recognized. Being, trusted enough and kind of being like a person wants to invest not in you and what you're known for and what so many people try to capitalize on. It's like, well,
Hmm.
this is like what, like, I am blah blah blah, like this, like specifically what you showed him as like, this is a piece of work that I've been working on, and
Hmm.
him going, yeah, that's why I want to give money to it, like,
Yes.
because of
Yeah.
this project. Like, Jesus, yeah. Can't imagine like anybody, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I suppose that's kind of just like a pulls you back a little bit, because like, wow, hey, maybe I'm not that bad.
Yeah, and I think it's because I had had such a long period where any opportunity that I had gotten through YouTube was all in the context of, we want to just like take this thing you have and see if we can capitalize on it. Like, we want to see if we can get these viewers. We want to see whatever the thing is that you're doing. Can you come and
Mm,
do that over here on this show so we can try and pull some of that in? And so to have that version of it where none of that mattered and it was just about the ideas, I was like,
yeah.
that I mean, it felt very, very good. Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
still
mean,
riding that high.
yeah, I mean, working with puppets, TV shows, that's pretty good, standout moments, those are pretty major, like,
Yeah,
but
but
like,
the
yeah,
puppet though. But the puppet though.
oh, come on. But I suppose as well, like, then from that, has there been like any major, just like, what the fuck kind of moments of like came from anything that you done, or things that have been like, this isn't really what I was like agreeing to when I signed up for this. Like, I
Mm.
don't know, because like, I like, as you said, I suppose, like, even different like gigs that people have, they'll be like, you're known for this, we'll apply this to some other place. Has that kind of probably been like one of the most annoying things, that you try to detach yourself from this early career, maybe? Or I don't know.
Let me think about that, because I was thinking about the question more in terms of the horror story, which was trying to get my show made, which was very difficult.
Oh, go for that one. That's much less impeding. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
because yeah, in that vein of it seems impossible that anything ever gets made ever. I think we so my show Don't Look Deeper eventually came out on um, Quibi, which is now defunct. It was one of the losses of 2020. It was like an attempt to be like a Netflix just for your phone.
Mm,
Those were the folks who were kind enough to purchase my show and spend a lot of money making it. But there was a point where I actually, it was like 2 years before that, where a completely different platform had also bought the show. Um, and we were, I think we were about a week away from shooting it. Um,
oh no.
yeah, we were a week away from shooting it. And we'd like hired, like, when you're a week away, like, everybody's been hired.
Yeah.
I think maybe a few actors still needed to be pulled in that we were going to shoot with later, but everyone had been cast. I went to the production office and I was hanging out with all of these people who were like coming together and working real hard to make this idea that I'd put my heart and soul into, and I was feeling very overwhelmed by the whole thing, that this idea I'd had for the show um, was giving all of these people jobs, and that this thing was actually going to happen. And then and so we originally sold the show to this platform, Go 90, which met the same fate that Quibi ultimately did. Um, and yeah, we saw a news story that the app was had been shut down, and I got a phone call from the producers, and they said, "Yeah, we're shutting down production now." Um, and I was the first person to hear about that. I remember leaving the production office, getting that phone call, and walking back into the production office and not knowing what to do. Like, am I supposed to make an announcement to all these people who are still currently trying to work to make the show happen?
Yeah.
Um, so I pulled the lead producer out into the corridor and I told him, and then he got a phone call from the producers in LA too, and one of the other executive producers who had popped in to like for the day, she had bought us a large bottle of tequila as like a this is like a celebration. Like you can, like great job everyone. Have some tequila. You can have a great time. And that was the tequila that we all drank when we were just very very sad that our show was not going to get made. Um, I mean, they did like we were going to shoot the show in Toronto. It ultimately ended up getting shot in Los Angeles
Mm.
when we did make it for Quibi. But yeah, when I like I wanted to move to Toronto anyway, but I kind of like pushed forward the move so that I could like be here
Yeah.
for the shoot. So to have the whole thing suddenly crumble apart was I mean,
I'm so
there
sorry,
I
making you
had not
relive
had a
this.
more
Jesus.
heartbreaking moment than that. It was that was tough. That was tough.
I was like so expect. I feel like a prick for asking that now. I was like
No,
so
no, no. It's
expecting,
good.
like something like, oh yeah, when I started to get like recognized, like people started like, treat me different, or like I know like started getting maybe some like trolls and shit online. But you're like, no, something that I put my heart and soul into, got snatched away from me, and a whole production company. Yeah, wow, that's a bit more fucking breathing. Oh
The other
god,
thing about
I'm
that is
sorry. Sorry for
no, no,
asking.
no. I'm listen. It happened, and I ultimately got to make the show, and we had the same situation happen, right? Where we made the show, um, and it was bigger and better than it would have been previously, because we got to write more episodes. They spent about 10 times the budget that we had originally on it. We got to hire, Catherine Hardwicke to direct it, who did, Twilight and 13. We ended up having like Don Cheadle as one of the leads in our show. We ended up with an actual Avenger in the show that I came up with like 5 years previously in my head. Like it was wild. Um, and uh, and then 6 months after Quibi launched, the whole platform collapsed too. So I'm not saying that my show is cursed, but I mean there's a possibility that it might be. Fortunately, the shows are going to end up on a different service, so it's not, the show is not gone, and it did get made, and I'm very proud of that. But it definitely like and what I
It's
also
been
heard was that
intense.
yes, because the I'm like a co-creator of the show. I created it with this chap Jeffrey Lever, who's also one of the co-creators of Lost. He's like made real TV for a very long time, and he told me,
Kind of a big deal. Hmm.
yeah, he told me that the thing where you're a week away from production and then everything falls apart, that happens all the time apparently. But the thing that doesn't happen all the time is that suddenly someone else is like, yeah, actually I will buy this and I'll spend more money on it, and yes, you can have all of these cool people in it. So we were very lucky that the thing actually got made at the end. But yeah, it just seems like it took such a long time. It was such a hard journey to get that show actually out there. That yes, it seems impossible to me that there are any films and TV shows that exist. It's just like it's so hard to do it. It's so hard.
Yeah, I mean that's why I've like just started to do this podcasting thing, because like honestly, God, it's stressful. Jeez, I just want to chat to people.
Yeah,
Organizing,
yeah.
no, not into it anymore. I mean, I did my little documentaries in uni, and then I said, that's all I need to work off. That's my portfolio for the rest of my life. Yeah, exactly. But I suppose, yeah, highs and lows. I mean, that kind of like, you've kind of answered all in one, like especially like in that situation. I mean, it comes with like a major fucking like high and then low and then high and
Yes,
kind of
yes.
we're midway in between. But I suppose like that maybe like I don't want to traumatize you any further with digging deep into some of your traumas. But like I suppose,
But here it comes.
no, I swear it's not. It's just, what I suppose does the future then hold for you, Charlie? Like, is there a 5-year plan? Like, well, so kind of like, are there any big goals that you want to achieve that you haven't yet? Because I suppose that probably would have been one of the big goals. And, as you said, so many different things. You mean, you represent with Papa, do you know what I mean? Like, making your short films. I mean, making music, getting like this whole career set out that essentially, I mean, start off with couldn't convince your granda. Like, it feels like you've ticked off quite a bucket list. But is there
Mhm.
anything like that you're still aiming towards, or that you're kind of like, oh, this would be class to, achieve? Because it seems like you've done like you've done pretty well.
I have been very fortunate in that I have done a lot of the things that people want to have done. Like that, I have multiple albums. I have a book. I have the show. Um,
All right, don't
I,
brag.
there's and of course the pinnacle of it all is presenting with that puppet. Um, but I mean, really, it's just for me. It's just like the next thing that I want and hope to get made. Like, I've gone through this process of making my show Don't Look Deeper, actually having it done, and it's like now I would just it feels like an equally difficult task just to get anything else done in that vein. Um, yeah, currently I'm developing a feature film that I can't really talk too much about, and feel very happy that I'm in a position to be working on something that I can't talk about, because that means if something's happening with it, it's not just like a feature that I'm just tootling away on my computer by myself. Um, so yes, there is a feature film that I'm working on that I really am hoping will get made. That's the thing on the horizon. Um, and then I have Twitch, which is still really just a hobby, but it kind of fulfills that urge of just like, okay, if I'm going to spend all of this time working on something that might not ever happen, then I also want a fun little creative project that I can work
Yeah.
on the side that is completely self-driven. I don't have to rely on anyone else. I'm just doing it for my own enjoyment more than anything else. So it's kind of dual pronged. I'm really happy with what I'm doing right now. I'm just gonna keep doing that basically.
So we shouldn't be expecting like TikToks to be coming out anytime soon. No.
Um, no to the TikToks. We were talking right at the beginning about I don't want to make you feel old, but used to watch you as a kid. One of the things that really does make me feel old is that I just do not understand TikTok. I just don't. I can't.
Oh, sir, no. Honestly, that I like literally, I was the exact same, and it like, I mean, even me, I'm 22, and I was like in this job where they were literally asking me to like build up a TikTok account for them. They were like this like media publisher ones, and I was just saying like I have no idea. Even I feel like they were choosing me because I was the youngest in the office. And I was saying I have no idea.
Right.
Like I don't understand this any like as much as you do. But I feel like since the lockdown and this whole year, oh, some quality content on it. Like there's a girl that lives like around the road from me. You're talking about, small, what people like getting millions of subscribers, whatever, like this. People get millions of views. Like nothing's like, I mean, if you
Mm,
don't get a million views on something, it's like, did you even make a TikTok? Like it's
right.
mad. Like it's blowing up crazy. But yeah. So I mean, in other words, yeah, you're focused on bigger, better things. Yeah, feature films, Switch. I hear
I
you,
have
Jordan.
if you can figure out TikTok, one of my friends, Hank Green, he's done very, very well on TikTok. He's like 10 years older, 10 years my senior, right? And he's like, yeah, he's really figured it out, and has his own niche on it. I can understand his TikToks basically. But so I'm not harshing on TikTok. I really just don't. I just don't get it. I know I've tried. I can also see it as something that is would just suck my attention away, and
Oh,
I
it's
feel like I can avoid that if I want to. That would be good,
yeah.
probably.
Do you know what? It's probably a healthier move. Yeah, it's toxic. But I suppose just before we finish up, I was hoping to do very very quick fire because I know I've had you on here for so long. But maybe a little word association game. Basically, I'll just say some words to
Okay.
you, or some phrases, maybe some things, nouns. I don't know. And first thing that pops into your head. Bear in mind, this is me. That I was trying to like think of this about 10 minutes beforehand because I was like, shit, like what can I say that hasn't already been done before? And this is what I came up with: word associations. So,
Okay.
okay, so you're
Quality
ready.
content.
Quality content. Yeah. Are you ready? No,
I'm
you can't be slow on these. You got it. First thing that comes to mind. Okay.
okay. I mean, I'm not ready, and I feel like that's the point.
Well, okay. Well, we'll get there. Okay. So first and foremost, chameleon circuit.
Oh, oh dear.
I know. Yeah, you didn't expect this, but it's fun.
I mean, that's my word. I just, oh dear. I mean, I'm
Oh
just
dear.
remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tea Chronicles.
Learning experience.
Bath.
Limestone.
Beecham Cliff School.
Formative.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I feel like this is like so uncomfortable for you, but I'm enjoying myself. Doctor Who.
Oh, home.
Home.
It's comforting.
This Is Me.
We're proud.
Serial Time.
I miss it.
Quality.
Yorkshire Gold.
Oh, brilliant. Toronto.
Actually home.
Zelda.
Fanboy.
Don't Look Deeper.
I did it.
Fun Science.
I'm an author.
Emily Diana Ruth.
My partner.
I was expecting something like love that. Yeah, jeez, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do love her.
I was giving you an opportunity here. Okay, but it's fine.
Okay,
it's fine.
she won't hear this.
And of course, Finnterviews.
Oh, Pinnacle Puppet. Even.
Yeah, I was expecting shit show, but I'll set for Pinnacle. Yeah. No, honestly, Charlie, Jay, I appreciate like you coming on here, me absolutely digging through the traumas of your life. I'm sure you obviously enjoyed that, but like,
it's been
honestly,
very cathartic.
Jeez, I hope so. I mean, yeah, this is your morning. Yeah, hopefully your day goes up from here. Like, I mean, the bar is low. But I mean, like, Jenny, I always say this. Anybody that's ever sitting down with and chatting with, like, especially this is kind of why I started this podcast. I just was like, forget it, we'll start it out of nowhere. We'll see who I get chatting to. And I'm lucky enough that you're kind of one of the people that, as I said, grew up with. And I just took a notion to give you a random email. And you were lovely enough to actually get back to me and be like, yeah, let's chat. So honestly, thank you so much for like actually just agreeing to chat to another specky kid on the internet.
I'm more than happy to. It's always good to ask, you know. I mean, like you never know. I mean, I'm saying this in the vein of like, oh, it is a privilege for you to be talking to me. I really don't mean that. But I like it's nice just to throw it out there into the world and be like, I have no expectations of this. If this will happen, if it does, then great. So I'm fully supportive of that. Yeah,
exactly. And I suppose as well, like I love doing this at the end because it makes me sound like I've got some like kind of audience, but there's really like my mom. Or like anybody that kind of wants to follow whatever you're doing at the moment now, you know, whether it's Twitch or, you know, anything that you're next going to be putting out, the next feature film, do you know what I mean? Where can they find you and where can they, you know, keep in track with, you know, Charlie McDonnell? What can they like, yeah, see you on?
Well, yeah, I'm most active these days on Twitch. And I'm just CoolLike on Twitch. I still use Twitter a bit, also CoolLike on there. And then I can't talk about my feature film, but I mean, hopefully it will be available to watch in, I don't know, 3 years. So I can't really, and I don't know where it will be available to watch in theaters. If we're going to theaters in 3 years, I don't know.
Either way, we'll keep our eye out on CoolLike and all the rest of your stuff. Yeah, well, here, Charlie, go enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much again. And I know, I just wish you best with everything in the future.
Thank you very much. You too. It's been a pleasure.
All right, sir. See you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Finnterviews. If you enjoyed the episode and would like to support the podcast, please do by giving us a like, share, subscribe, follow, and 5-star rating on whatever listening platform that you are on right now. All of that stuff really does help. Also, if you'd like to get in contact and tell me how I'm getting on, give me some abuse, or give me any suggestions who you would like to hear on the show, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's Finnterviews, Finnterviews Podcast, Finnterviews Pod. You'll find me somewhere where you type in Finnterviews online, basically. Until next time, honestly, cheers for listening, and I'll chat to you later. Bye.